My Ikebana piece, as I started this this project, I was completely ignorant to the fact of what Ikebana was, processes involved, the aesthetics, and all the terms and basically the whole science behind it. There is a big method behind it. You don't just run up and make a vessel to clip flowers. There's a lot more at stake for that, both aesthetically, artistically, and on a more technical level. So I've had experience with clay before, and but never as far as form and function. It was always more free form, free flowing. So it was very hard to sort of harness those skills and be able to produce a piece that was not only sort of my vision, my aesthetic involved into that, but also follow a very strict regimen of what Ikebana actually is. So in my research, between me and my partner, we decided to go with Moribana. It seems to be the more appropriate and popular form of Ikebana right now. And the reason why we picked it in particular, the aesthetic behind it was always very low-lying, non-organic, very geometric, very stringent. I thought that was going to be very simple to pull off, but it ended up being a little bit more complicated than I intended. So to come up with an idea that was both feasible and appealing to the eye, I ended up going through a few different stages. So the first one being our box presentation. I didn't go with a standard box. I cut off the ends because I thought it would break up the harsh geometric shape enough, and then went with a more organic grass-like texture pattern, trying to keep a good balance between nature and stringent form. The second piece, the tube form, I also wanted to keep some organic feel to it, but also a very harsh, straight geometric form. Sharp lines, sharp corners, never keeping a same linear movement, always breaking off and changing, as well as also being able to house an appropriate Ikebana floral arrangement. The next one I had done was my half tube construction. That one was more organic. It still had a very set form as it being a half a cylinder, but I experimented with something more organic, and as it progressed, I added some geometric shapes at, I guess, sort of resembling a cactus. And then my hump and slump processes were less successful in the sense that it really didn't catch my eye as far as idea-wise was going. But as I progressed, what helped us more was our trip to the Huntington Library. So as we had gone and looked through the garden and had some idea of what more specific aesthetics were involved in the making and presentation of these items, such as bonsai trees, all had a particular style of vessel as well. And then once we saw what the actual Ikebana forms were traditionally through the presentation at the Huntington, we were, and their guest speaker and Jason, giving us a little bit more specific pointers as far as what we needed to accomplish. Now, with my final presentation for my Ikebana, as the concept progressed, I decided to go with this form, using a styrofoam jig. I was able to lay the clay on top and form it and give it more defined geometrical attributes, but still maintaining a very free-flowing, very open look to it. Sort of was inspired by some of the rooftops at the Huntington Library, and experimenting with paper cutouts and cardboard. I was able to sort of create, but translating this form to actual clay was a little bit more challenging. The clay has more of a mind of its own. It tends to shrink. It loves to crack. It definitely fights you every step of the way. But once you're able to figure out some of the technical issues with your clay, you're able to come up with some very interesting forms and able to incorporate it together. This one actually ended up being a pedestal for it, so it'd be free flowing. But because of it being the first one, I did not take into consideration that I needed to hold a certain amount of water, have a certain amount of clearance. So with my second Ikebana, I definitely needed to keep that in mind. So I made the secondary jig a lot more, I guess, pronounced in that characteristic, allowing for the taking of more water and holding water, and definitely taking into consideration the tenson that's going to sit in the middle. Luckily, everything went smoothly. Thanks to the first one, I was able to figure out exactly what I was not supposed to do with that. The reason why I went with more of a rectangular function as well, here it is fired and killed, was primarily, I wanted it, being as how it was winter, I wanted it to sort of open up to the sky, catch rain, snow, and still retain water and have this enormous flower arrangement. That's why it shows a very longer side with a lot of negative space underneath as well. So it can be pretty much planted anywhere. It was pretty well balanced. It's not going to tip over. It doesn't wobble very easily. So as long as everything is very centered, it's very, very stable. But as far as that, and then with the actual finish, I didn't want to go with just straight black. I wanted to break it up a little bit, so I went with a patina oxide on the edges and dry brushed in the center to kind of give it a very worn, very used look. I still wanted to maintain some sort of organic feel without going too far into that. I wanted basically the floral arrangement to be the most pronounced feature in the entire presentation. So basically, at the end of this, this was a huge learning experience, going from developmental models to the final product, which I'm pretty sure they're gonna enjoy. I hope they don't buy it because I really like it. I really want this thing, but I'll be happy with the little one. But
another one.
Yeah, no, I can always make another one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening.